Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius. I am John Ledyard from pewterreport.com. Along with me today, you know him by his true name, Matthew Matera. And he was in rare form today down at Bucs practice.
Was I really?
I thought you were at the Advent Health Training Facility. I thought you were in rare form today, Matt. And you're going to let all the people know today on the podcast just what that rare form looked like and how brilliant you were at practice today, because the tales of your work today need to be sung from every rooftop in Tampa Bay.
The tales of my because of the Byron Leftwich article?
Just everything you did, man. The tweets. No, I'm just joking with you. I was just trying to blow you up to start the podcast, man. That's all I was trying to do.
I appreciate that.
Just don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Just say, yeah, absolutely. That definitely my work.
Can't get too big of a head, you know. Hey, I did spot Tanner Hudson. I was like, hey,
you did.
That guy's out. That guy is not practicing today. Let's tweet that out.
There's a brace on that guy's wrist. That's a thing. Yeah. You heard Byron Leftwich say crazy words, and you said, wow, this should be tweeted. And so we tweeted it. No, it was good. It was a good morning data
practice. This needs to be on video. You tweeted it. I was like, this needs to be on video.
I did tweet it. Yes, I did. If people have noticed the Pure Report Twitter account being a little more surly than usual, that's because that may be your boy. Your boy may have had something to do with that. I may be letting the sass out on the Pewter Report account a little bit, but no, it was a fun day of practice. I mean, this team is kind of I've gotten the feeling the last 2 days being there that they're ready for like something new. You know what I mean? Didn't you get that feeling today?
Today very much felt like it was the calm before the storm. Like they knew that the Tennessee Titans are on the horizon, and it's going to be super fun watching them share a joint practice the next 2 days. And today was obviously they were just in shorts and spiders or shells, whatever you want to call it, because everyone has a different definition for it.
Right.
But yeah, you could tell that they were getting ready to put the pedal to the metal on Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah, no question. And I think not that everybody was unfocused or anything, but I do think there's a level of excitement for something new out of the ordinary. What's interesting about Bucs practices is that compared to other teams that I've watched and seen their practice format day to day, not a lot changes with the Bucs. They pretty much do the same stuff every day. Like, and not that they do all the same plays, but just like the same periods happen at the same times with the same people.
Yeah, exactly. You know when they're going to go to individual drills. You know when it's going to be 11 on 11. You know when it's going to be 7 on 7 and so forth. You know when it's like halfway through practice, you're like, all right, like they're going to the kicking portion and everything like that. So the only thing that mixes up a little bit is like when they decide to go red zone or goal line and things like that. Yeah, and the one-on-one. So that's a nice little treat to throw to the fans and people that are over there watching.
I'm geeked up on one-on-one days, no question about it.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, we've got a lot to learn kind of about what the next 2 days are going to look like against the Titans, because that could be the Titans format for practice. It could be a combination of the two teams.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a combination of the two teams to a degree. I don't know what that'll look like. Will they do one-on-ones? Oh, man, I can't wait. It's going to be a blast. The next 2 days are going to be so much fun. And we're going to be here in the Pewter Report podcast breaking it all down for you. And it's going to be energized by our friends over at Celsius. If you don't know, Celsius, it's the energy drink that you got to have, to be honest with you. I know there's other ones out there, but like, I just really believe if you try Celsius, you won't drink anything else. Like, they're that good. There's no drop off from them. The taste is amazing. It's healthy energy. It accelerates metabolism, burns body fat. There's no sugar, yet they get tons of different flavors and tons of great taste. I don't even know how they do it, to be honest. I know there's a bunch of scientific facts on the back here. I just know that I'm happy every time I drink one, and I believe you will be too. The other thing that makes me happy and has honestly physically sustained me during training camp are these protein bars, these fast protein bars that Celsius produces as well. 20 grams of protein, 1 gram of sugar. That's it. Great to get the protein with very little sugar. This is the white chocolate cookies and cream. The caramel, salted caramel crunch is another one that I think I like that one more, considering that I'm still out of it. working my way through the white chocolate cookies and cream. It has been, I mean, I'm up early, but I'm doing a workout and then I'm showering and then I'm getting my kids up and my daughter's starting school. So I'm getting her out the door to school and I'm leaving, like basically I'm leaving and going out to practice. So these energy drinks and these protein bars have sustained me when I can't get a complete meal. So encourage you to check them out. There's a link in this YouTube description. Click that link. You can get the variety pack for the protein bars. And then you already know about how to find Celsius. Click on the banner ads over at pewterreport.com or make sure that you go to Celsius.com. Use the store locator to find out where you can get Celsius near you. All right, Matt, let's just talk right away, right off the bat about Byron Leftwich. People are freaking out.
Slow motion
in the world? What is this guy talking about? And it's always a question with Byron Leftwich. And I want to go through what was actually said so that everybody kind of knows what we're talking about in case they missed his comments today after practice. But Byron Leftwich basically confused us, which Byron Leftwich,
to put it mildly.
To put it mildly, yes. I'm going to find that. Actually, I'm going to find the quotes with Arians in there too, because
we were quick to, for lack of a better term, discredit what Coach Leftwich was saying about we're not doing any motion. Like, I don't know where you guys got that from. Well, we got it from somewhere, and that person happened to be his head coach, the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Bruce Arians.
Right. And here's what Leftwich said basically was that their offense isn't changing. There's nothing different about their offense. They didn't change their offense last year after the bye. They didn't do more motion. He said in the past, we didn't make an effort to do more play action. Well, that clearly is not true. And Bruce Arians has said it's not true, so they don't care about being on the same page. That's clear. That's fine. Whatever. Now he's saying, now Byron Leftwich has basically said that in terms of motion, the offense is not going to do that. And he said, we're not going to be a motion offense. Like, that's not going to happen. And he said, I don't know where you're getting that. Well, we're getting it from Bruce Arians because he literally said it the other day after practice. So it's not like we're coming up with this stuff on our own or just making it up. I mean, we are witnessing it every day in practice. We aren't really even allowed to report on that unless somebody confirms it. Arians basically did confirm it. We didn't even ask him to confirm it. He just said they were doing it.
Yeah.
And so it just makes no sense to me why, it's already out there. We already know, man. You don't have to act like it's not true. That's just Leftwich sometimes.
Yeah. So here's Arians' quotes. I pulled it up. We tweeted from the Pewter Report account. This was 5 days ago. He said, again, a very, very good practice. Today's emphasis were communication. A lot of shifts, a lot of motions, defensively making adjustments, offensively, obviously executing those shifts and motions and the plays correctly. I was really pleased with it. It's a nice little build-up, obviously, with the pads off for Saturday night. Hopefully the weather will cooperate, yada, yada, yada. And then later on, he says, the question was pretty much about the Buccaneers and Brady having to start with terminology and basic stuff from a year ago. He said we wouldn't have had all of those shifts, motions, and all those different gadgets that we were doing today. So in that statement right there, then, he says a couple more things, but pretty much said that this year they're putting in more of that stuff because they have that luxury now after having the entire offense and Tom Brady playing in that system for a whole year. And so
Leftwich isn't helping himself because what happens is that fans react when they see Leftwich say stuff. And so they get frustrated and they blame him like he's doing this, but he's not doing the things he's saying really. He came out of the bye week with more control last year and more on the same page with Brady. And it
more
was
play
one
action.
Of the, it was one of the things that transformed their season. The fact that they went heavy play action against Washington in the wildcard game and other regular season games toward the end of the year, but especially that game and the Kansas City game, those are their two heaviest play action games of the year. You tell me that wasn't intentional? You telling me you just stumbled into that? I mean, come on. What you're making yourself sound worse. But he doesn't care about that at all. He doesn't care what fans think, and he doesn't care what media thinks. That's one thing I'll say about Byron Leftwich. You can say it, you can take it, or you can leave it. I personally don't necessarily always understand what he's saying, but I do think he's a good coach, even if I don't necessarily love all the things that the media interactions with him. I do think he's a good coach. I think last year he got a lot better, and I think that he's still somebody who's growing and learning. But as an offensive coordinator, yeah, I like a lot of things he's done. I like the fact that he's willing to learn and listen to players. I think those are important things. He just doesn't want to show that part of himself to us.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think he's a really good person, and he's a good coach, and he's a really good coach, and he's obviously getting better at it. And at the end of the day, he's a player's coach because he's a player that played in the league and was in the league at the same time as Tom Brady, which is pretty crazy. You don't really see that too much, where a coordinator is the coach of a guy that played against him. Yeah, exactly. And everything like that. But when it comes to speaking to the media, Leftwich has always pretty much been the same. He says the same exact thing that he said from the first day he's been here up until his most recent press conference today. And he says he needs to learn about the quarterback more, or the best way for this offense is if he knows what he thinks the quarterback is going to do. And he always says that he's going to put his players in the best position to succeed. He says that every single time, which is totally fine. But you kind of know what he's going to say in each press conference, which made it a bit surprising that he would say something about, we're not going to do any motions. And I don't know why you guys keep bringing this up, or why you guys said it in the first place. So
it's just like, I don't know why do you need to act like you don't know what we're talking about? Like, in order to do this, it seems like what we're talking about. It's not like we're imagining motion happening on the offense. Like, we're just seeing it, like it's happening. It's been a clear increase in practice. I don't know whether they'll show any of that in games or not, or things like that. But the Bucs are never going to be a motion heavy offense, but they were the least motion heavy offense in the league last year. So, it's just like, there's going to be an increase from that. There was an increase from that over the final three games of the season. That is part of your game plan. Like, that happened. That's real stuff. ESPN has those numbers. Seth Walder and I have talked about this at ESPN. There are tweets that show that. It's confusing to me. But anyway, yes. I would say to fans, do not freak out. I do not think that the Bucs are going to be a super stagnant offense or anything like that. They are using motion in practice. They will use motion in these games. Whether they show it or not a ton in the preseason, we'll see. But there will be that element to their offense. They will not be San Francisco or Green Bay or anything like that, but there will be motion in this.
And John, you got to remember too, even with the issues that the Bucs had during the season on offense, and yes, as we just spoke about, they figured it out after the bye. This is a team that still averaged 30.8 points per game. And coincidentally enough, they also averaged 30.8 points per game in the postseason. I feel like that's kind of crazy. They averaged literally the exact same amount of points. That's kind of tough to do. So we're still talking about a team that was able to put points on the board. They were still able to score even when they didn't really have their A game. So I think that's a super encouraging sign going into this season, where they're clearly going to be multiple steps ahead than they were last season, which was a Super Bowl winning season.
Right.
So if 30.8 was what they did last year, I mean, I don't think it's crazy. Is like 35 points per game like too wild? I was going to say 32 at first, but I'm like, is that too little of a jump? Yeah.
I really don't know. I know these things aren't always linear, unfortunately, but yes.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
Situations will dictate everything.
Yeah,
like if they're up 28-0 and going into the fourth quarter, they might just run out the clock essentially. Yeah.
Right. So there's elements that need to be considered with all of it for sure. But I mean, I think it should be a good offense. Anybody saying anything different, knows something we don't, because I think it should be a really good offense. And I think motion will be a part of that. I'll also say this. I don't think like I harp on play action. I don't think motion is as critical. There are elements to motion too. Are you pre-snap motion? Are you motion at the snap? Those are different things. The Bucs do plenty of pre-snap motion, in my opinion. Motion at the snap, no, they don't do any of that. So I mean, it just depends what you're looking for. But there's, I wish they did some of it, but it's not as big a deal to me as like whether you're doing play action, especially in a vertical based offense. Like, how are you not doing more play action in a vertical based offense? That's crazy to me. So there's and the same thing with the screen game before they incorporated that in, with the wide receivers. So there's those things to me are more important than motion. I don't want us to get totally caught up in it, but I wouldn't put like a ton of stock into what Byron's saying at this point in time. He likes to play games with us. He really does. And that's his thing. So what else do we learned today at this practice? We learned that Tom Brady, looking pretty good. I mean, I thought today was.
He's a solid player. He's got a bright future here.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there were some points of practice where the ball just didn't even hit the ground. He was just absolutely feeling it. I'm looking back through my notes, and it almost just becomes you get used to it in practice. But like, man, deep to Darden several times, hit Gronk between a bunch of defenders.
Yep. Chris Godwin down the field. He had a good one to Godwin.
That's right.
And he was held on the plate. There were refs today too, by the way.
Yes.
To those of you watching and listening to us, they had refs there for the first time, which was cool. Obviously, I assume they'll be there for when the Titans got here too. But yeah, it was a pass down the right-hand side of the field, and Godwin was held on the play. The ref threw the flag and everything, and he still came down with it. So shorthanded Chris Godwin. While we probably haven't said his name as much as AB and Mike Evans and guys like that, he looks to be in good form for the regular season that's coming up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he looks great in practices. And I mean, we only saw 2 pass attempts the other day, but they were both on the money. And so, I mean, yeah, we won't see him against the Titans on Saturday, but you'll see him the next 2 days joint practices. So we'll have full reports from those on how he looks, obviously, in those environments. Remember this. I just would like everyone to remember this as we look at Brady over the next 2 days. Brady, when he was talking on the shop about that team with that MFer, he was talking about the Titans. I'm just saying that's the team he was talking about. So get that in your heads. The next 2 days could be a little fun if Brady comes out trying to fire it around the yard. You know, I think that he's gonna. Yeah, I don't think that's lost on Brady, even the practice atmosphere. I know we always make a huge deal out of these things with Brady, but I'm sure it's not that big of a deal. But I do think that will be a fun underlying storyline, especially if Tannehill kind of struggles a little bit. Brady kind of lights it up, or vice versa, too, for Titans people. Also, the reports out there, I know it's the Titans, but the reports out there that the Titans, the reports are the team that Brady was referring to knows they're that team that Brady was referring to. They know who he's talking about. And obviously that team, I strongly believe others that strongly believe that team is the Titans. And so, I think that, it's going to be another element.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Plus, Brady has a friendship and a relationship with the Titans coach, Mike Vrabel. So anytime it's a former New England type of guy.
Yeah.
Yes. And John Robinson. Sorry. Anytime you see some old pals and when you're on the other side, you want to get the better of them,
Right.
And I'm sure Brady hasn't forgotten as great success that he's had in his first season with the Bucs. I mean, he knows the team that knocked him out in his last New England. So,
Greg saying, so are you saying that he remembers the Titans?
Greg,
he does remember.
Great point. Greg. He does.
Tracy,
remember the Titans.
Good point by Tracy. Vrabel and Brady were also teammates.
Exactly.
This thing has so many layers.
I can't remember. Was Vrabel one of the defensive players that would line up on offense, like at the goal line, whatever? So
caught several touchdowns.
I mean,
from Brady. So
it's pretty awesome. But yeah, new uniform for Brady and still out for blood,
I'm very excited. I think it's going to be a great battle to watch. Obviously, there will be a lot of elements to that we'll be breaking down over the next couple of days, but that'll be one of them. Brady against the Titans secondary that thinks they've kind of remade themselves this offseason, those receivers, doing work as well. But, I think that even when you watch practice today, Matt, I kept going back to one thing. Like, I just think this group drops the freaking football too much. Like, it's so frustrating because they are so talented, and we've written so many times about how there's practice periods where they just look unstoppable. And that's how it was in the games last year. There were games where you couldn't defend any. Like, think of those Atlanta games and the Lions game, and even the Washington game. If Godwin hadn't dropped so many passes, they could not be covered. They could not be stopped. You know what I mean? It was just that kind of a group and that kind of a passing attack. But man, the Bucs were third. He had the third or second most drops in the league of any team last year. Brady had 33 passes dropped per Pro Football Focus. In the playoffs, they dropped 12 more passes, which is just crazy that they were able to overcome that. That's way more than any other team. I know they played a little more games than any other team, but even that rate, that's a 13% drop rate for them in the playoffs. That is just disgusting. That's horrible. And they overcame it. And this is PFF being quite generous, conservative with their drop count. Like, I would definitely say it was more than 12 in the playoffs. I mean, I've charted it out before. I think I was at 14 or 15. it's so weird because they can all get open. They can all make contested catches. They can all run by people, make plays vertically, make plays after the catch. Like, you name it, they can do it with this wide receiver core, and usually multiple guys that can do all those things. But drops, like, and again, it's mostly last year was mostly Mike Evans, the tight ends to a degree, but the backs. We expect Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown are two of the most sure-handed receivers to ever play. Yeah. Godwin obviously had the disaster game against Washington. Other than that, his drop numbers were really good last year. And AB, of course, of his career has been great in that regard, and it was great last year with the Bucs in that regard. So there is some reason, reason for optimism. But, Tyler Johnson drops 2 today. Leonard drops 1, and another I thought he should have caught on his back hip. You said it was a little behind him, and you're right. Mike Evans adjusted and should have caught one in the end zone, went off both his hands for a touchdown. And we saw it in the game, right? Josh Pearson drops 2 passes. Tanner Hudson dropped 1. Who else? AB dropped 1. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
He dropped 1.
Deep ball down the field. Yeah, you're right.
It's been an issue, and Bruce Arians called it out the Monday before. Too many drops in practice, and we wrote about it was an issue. You practice like you play, or you play like you practice. I think that there's a lot of truth to that. I know it's a cliche, and most cliches I kind of laugh at, but I do think there's a lot of truth to that. Like, drops are a confidence thing more than they are a skill thing, in my opinion. Like, they're a consistency, repetition thing. And I don't know whether being on the jugs machine or whatever helps these guys more, but my observation has been that it's a freaking problem for this team. And it's the kind of thing that you don't want to be derailed because you because you did things, self-inflicted things, if you're a team this good.
Yeah, and I think the type of drops that the Bucs had, I mean, specifically for this practice, I think was more concerning because a lot of those drops, it wasn't like, they had a step in front of or ahead of the defender, but the guy was still pretty much covering him the whole time. Like, Tyler Johnson's first drop was over the middle and he was trying to take it upfield, but there was defenders in the area, but not even close to even put their arm out and try to knock the ball away. Like, that's how open he was. Leonard Fournette's drop, it was just a swing pass, hit him right on the money, and then Mike Evans, any ball his way should be caught, especially I believe it was Dean in coverage on that play.
Yeah,
it might have been. And, Mike had the step ahead. So I think that
I think it was Dean another play. I think that was somebody else. I can't remember who, but
either way, maybe Mike Evans has to make that catch.
Right.
It shows how important Giovanni Bernard is going to be on this team. And I know we spoke about it the other day after the preseason game, but he's a guy that's already made 2 big third down catches. I do want to give a shout out to Ronald Jones today because we all know the history of his catching issues, but he made a very nice catch today down the field, about a 10 to 15 yard reception, and he caught it like right near the sidelines too. It was the type of reception that even when Ronald Jones makes the catch, you usually see him in the middle of the field. But for him to make essentially what was close to a sideline catch, very much not in the wheelhouse of what's not even really a wheelhouse of Ronald Jones in the first place. for him to make that type of play, that definitely stood out to me. And I think the crowd was really happy about it too, because they made some more noise on that play than any of the other plays that we saw.
Yeah. I'm glad you pointed out that play. That was a great catch by Ronald Jones. Safety close in, and just a concentration catch. That's the kind that's evaded him over the past, it's a great catch. And it's a sign of things that he can be. There's no question talent wise, he has kind of some traits to be effective in the passing game. It just has not happened because he just doesn't know where to be. He doesn't get his head around, doesn't get his hands up, doesn't finish. All those simple things, things for most backs and for most receivers in the game, we kind of take those things for granted. We expect those things to be there and we worry about the rest. Well, for him, it's kind of the opposite, right? Like, we don't question his tackle breaking or speed, acceleration in the open field, any things like that. We question the ability to use those things in the first place because you don't have the ball in your hands. And so it's kind of a reverse situation with Rojo. Been an odd career for Rojo, but I'm very hopeful about this season. First step, playing him over Leonard Fournette, though. We'll see.
I was going to say, first he's got to be the starter. He's only the starter on paper right now.
Can the man prove it? Like, it just has been so obvious in practice. But Greg wants to know what's the over/under on receptions by Bernard per game. He's thinking 4 per game. 4 per game would be 68 receptions. That's too high. Probably 2 per game would be the over/under, right? 1.5. I mean, I don't know how over one or short.
Yeah,
What do you say? 1.5.
So you think he's only going to get 2 per game? I think he's going to get more than that. He got 2 receptions in the preseason game the other night. He hardly played.
I know, but that's such a small sample size.
Yeah.
But I mean, his career high in receptions is like, I mean, how many catches do you think he'll have this year? You think he'll hit 50? Because if he gets 2 per game for 17 games, that's 34 catches on the year. If you it's 3, that's that puts him more.
I just see a situation where even if the Bucs are winning or stuff like that, that Bruce Arians just kind of falls in love with the idea of just having a receiving back out there.
I agree with you on that. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
And that he'll get maybe a ton of opportunities. I think the over-under should either be a 1.5 or 2.5 per game.
One or the other. So
1.5 or 2.5.
Yeah,
so you're either betting on he's going to get 3 or he's going to get 2 per game.
Okay, well, right. So
let's keep it at 1.5 for now.
Oh, that's conservative.
Okay, you know what?
Because I would take the over on that. I'd take the over on that.
Fine.
Easily.
2.5.
2.5 is harder for me.
Yeah.
Because
1.5 for the opener, and then let him get comfortable in the offense. 2.5 from there.
That's 51 catches. If he averages 3 catches a game, that means he finishes with 51 catches on the year.
But Brady loves throwing to the running backs, and I know, but how often is he going to be on the field? Again, if he's the most trustworthy third down guy, and the Bucs will be in third down situations, that's just how football works.
You're right.
I think Bruce Arians is not going to shy away from being like, hey, this guy is a pro's pro. He can pass block. I trust him in pass blocking way more than Ronald Jones and probably especially Leonard Fournette. And he's got the hands. Let's just keep putting him out there on third down.
I don't think he's going to have 68 catches this year, Greg. But I think 51's possible. That's not crazy. 51's possible.
All right, we're starting now. The quest to 51 for
51. That would be the second most catches he's had in a season in his career, but he had 47 last year. He's had
50 burger plus
he had
1.
56 in 2013, his rookie year. He's never hit that since then. 43, 49, 39, 43, 35, 30, 47. So,
well, no quarterback that has won multiple Super Bowls has went to another team and won a Super Bowl with that team in their first season. And no team has ever won a Super Bowl in their home stadium before. And that all happened last season with the Bucs and Tom Brady. So if it could ever happen, it would go down this season in Tampa Bay.
Paul says he'll take the over on 2.5. So he's in he's in the 3 catch department. Welcome, Paul. Welcome to the 3 catch per game.
3 catch club
for Gio. So I think 51's in the wheelhouse for him. That's crazy. At the end of this offseason, so like right before week 1, I will do something I did last year in a Bucs briefing column, and I will predict the statistical outputs for every skill player on the Bucs offense, Tom Brady included, for this upcoming season. It will be one of the hardest things I've ever done.
It's tough. I mean, just the talent of this team. And I remember last year you writing that, and you asked some of
that was before AB, before Gio, like before Scotty Miller's emergence.
Right, and it's tough to predict too, because you got to think like, okay, well, you had predictions for OJ Howard, and then he gets a season-ending injury, yep. So it's so tough to foresee all of that type of stuff. But it's going to be an awesome article to read. I can guarantee you that.
It's going to be fun. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but it's so hard to do because you think logically, wow, yeah, I mean, there could be 3 1,000-yard receivers in this team, and Gronk could have 600 yards, and then Gio could have 50 catches. Well, Gio has 50 catches. Where's everybody else? That's a lot of catches. And does Rojo have any? Does Leonard catch a ball? It gets ridiculous. So there's a lot to think about. But somebody, Bucs Time 12 says 99 catches for Gio. 99. All right. See you, Bucs Time 12. If he were the full-time back, I'm not saying he'd catch 99 balls, but it would be where Greg is predicting the 68. But be above range. Like I would set it at 4.5.
You never know. He's one injury away from, he's one injury away from being moving up to the number 2 guy. And we know how in today's NFL, you really switch it up all the time with who's in the backfield at running back.
All right. You talk about our friends over at Live and Golf Life, our boys, for a second, and I'm going to look something up.
Yeah, we absolutely love Living Golf Life, and we're super pumped that they are a sponsor of the Pewter Report podcast. I'll tell you about Living Golf Life. They are a golf brand, but they're more than that. They're all about the lifestyle. All you people that live in Florida or anywhere that you live, where you are, there are golf courses. The beauty of Florida is that you can play golf all year round. And I'm an avid golfer myself. I'm not the best golfer. I usually shoot in the 90s, but that's what Living Golf Life is all about. You don't have to be the best player. You don't have to be the next Brooks Koepka or anyone on the PGA Tour. It's about being outside, having a great time with your friends, enjoying some cold ones, and just having fun with the game of golf. They have great merchandise and apparel to get you ready for when you're going out on the course. They have hats. John's wearing one right now. Koozies.
Look at this thing. Come on. I mean,
polos. Yeah. A great logo and everything. It was created this year in 2021 by Jim Elseth and Mike Bush. They have a military background and a first responder background. They love the game of golf. They love the brand, the lifestyle that it comes with, and they make great merchandise to go along with it. Yep. So please check out their website at livinggolflife.com. Check out their Instagram at livinggolflife. They do giveaways all the time. They're giving out free stuff. They got awesome swag. We're going to be rocking polos, hats, and everything else in between at training camp, at practices, on the podcast. It's Living Golf Life. Whenever you're out on the course, make sure you hashtag it or tag them in it. And, if we see you purchasing some Living Golf Life attire, we'll make sure to retweet it, everything else with that. I'll even play a round of golf with you if you want to do that.
There you go. That's a great offer. I can't believe your phone is you got to leave your email or something. Like,
I will.
Let people know they
hit me up on Twitter, DM me or whatever.
There you go.
And so make sure you go to livinggolflife.com.
That's right. It's great stuff. We appreciate those guys a lot for sure. All right. Here's what I was looking up. I got to continue this Gio conversation just a little bit longer. I was looking up James White. I was looking up to see his numbers kind of as he played with Brady over the years, what kind of numbers he was able to put up. Here's the last 4 years he spent with Brady. The last 5 years will go. He spent with Brady in New England, which really he's not played that long. So these are every year but his rookie year. This is including 40 catches in 2015, 60 catches in 2016.
Hey, now
56 catches in 2017, 87 catches in 72 catches in 2019. So the last 3 years, 56, 87, 72 catches. Not bad.
The Patriots had other running backs that could catch the ball too.
That's right. He was not like the feature back in New England where Gio won't be. There'll be some similarities in their usage. It's not completely, but there'll be some similarities. And obviously the Bucs have way more receivers to throw.
Yeah,
so I don't think he's going to get to 80,
of it.
70 catches or anything, but it shows you like that's the high end. And even if there's some regression back to the middle, 51 seems like I feel all this to say 51. Well done, Matt.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Oh, there's a chance. No question about it. If Leonard can get off the field. Anyway, so let's talk about the offensive line. The last battle, the 9th spot, Nick Leverett running with the 2nd and 3rd team after maybe losing some ground on that matchup, right? Based on Saturday's game, Brad Seaton actually played a little bit better as I rewatched the game. I'm writing this a little bit in Bucs Briefing that'll be out tomorrow morning at pewterreport.com. But I think that competition kind of opened back up again. It felt like everybody was kind of settling in on Leverett. He played well enough to tackle, and you knew he was an inside guy. And okay, he can be our 9th guy. He plays guard if we need him. He plays tackle if we need him. Then he gets in the game, and some guys that are roster fringe guys and a rookie in Joseph Asai, they're kind of taking him to school a little bit. And I don't know if the Bucs think he can play tackle. We kind of came away from that game. I know Scott and myself and you kind of, I don't know if he's a tackle. And if he's not a tackle, Matt, then Josh Wells is your backup tackle. And then you have Hainsey and Stinney on the inside. But then do you want to tackle for your last spot, your 9th spot? Is it Brad Seaton, who played better in the game, who was okay today? Joe Tryon definitely giving him all he can handle.
Tryon kind of dominated him a little bit, but granted, it's Joe Tryon. By the way, just real quickly, that quote that Nacho had yesterday talking about Joe Tryon when he was like, there are days where I think to myself, oh man, I could have been a first round pick. And then I look at Joe Tryon and I'm like, nah, I couldn't be. That was just hilarious. Nacho's the best. I just wanted to say that real quick.
Yeah.
Seaton had a difficult the pendulum of Brad Seaton, I think, has been almost as crazy as any offensive lineman in this competition for one of the last spots. Because I think we went in being like, ooh, he's one of the guys that has a really good shot. He was one of the players that opted out of last season, but now he's back. He's a veteran player. And then Leverett kind of stole the show. It was like, oh, now Seaton, kind of an afterthought. Then he got himself back into the race with a solid performance in the preseason game. And then again today, I maybe I wasn't watching him as intently as other guys, but when I did see him, what I was watching was Joe Tryon getting the win in all of those reps. Joe
Tryon's looking like
the man,
crazy good,
the man. I mean, we talked about him a ton, and obviously the sack was awesome. So we don't need to keep going on and on and on about Joe Tryon, but
I could though.
We
just
could,
so people know.
Yeah, we could.
I've just been very, very, very impressed, and people know I was skeptical the year off, and how he looked his last time in college. Yeah, I mean, like it was hard. He was a hard projection. It was hard, for us, especially in the media, because we didn't get to see him work out in person. We didn't get to work, but we didn't do any of those things, so we didn't see what had changed. But he looks great, and so it's Brad Seaton that's been struggling kind of with him a little bit. But even Tristan Wirfs almost lost one to him today. That Wirfs saved it by being a phenomenal athlete. But he's testing everyone, and so I get that with Seaton. But that's what guys in the NFL do. And so you're talking about your ninth O lineman. I mean, I'm not saying Seaton's great, but I think there's competition again between those two. Donnell Stanley, by the way, got waived today. Finally, the Jonathan Franklin departure happened in Tampa Bay. People have been, is he still there? Is he still on the team? Is he still around? He is still around. They waived him where he was. Now he's not. They waived him today with a failed physical, and they waived Donnell Stanley, who's been hurt and out of practice for a while, to get the roster down to 85 people. So now you take another snapper like Stanley out of the rotation. We saw Marpet get a couple snaps yesterday. I think that the Bucs were kind of moving in that direction. The plan is kind of to have, if Hainsey's still out, Marpet's the backup center. Then if Hainsey comes back, we'll see.
You mean Molchon?
No, Marpet.
Ali Marpet?
Yeah, Ali Marpet took snaps yesterday in practice. Yeah, right up. Thanks for reading my practice report, man.
I must have missed that part, dude. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot right there.
No, Marpet took snaps, with the first team offense in practice. Jensen came out a few plays, and Stinney came over to left guard. You were saying the second team, so that's why I was like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
First team O-line, yeah.
Gotcha.
Stinney came in with the first team O-line.
Yeah.
Jensen. And so I think that will be the plan if something happens, unless Hainsey comes back now and gets up to speed. So they're just looking at different options. Stanley's not in the part of the rotation. I think that those depth O-line spots are going to come down to, okay, we got Josh Wells here. If Hainsey and Stanley are inside, do we want our ninth guy to be able to play tackle? If so, Nick Leverett, maybe we don't think he can play tackle, and Brad Seaton can, and maybe that's the difference.
Are you getting concerned about Hainsey's injury?
No, because he's snapping in 7-on-7.
Yeah.
He's snapping on the side. He's snapping during the game with Brady. He's day-to-day. They haven't done anything with him. I'm still okay with him. I'm still okay with Jordan Whitehead too. I think both of them are going to be back. I think they really are day-to-day. They're taking it easy with them. But there's nothing there's nothing on them. There's no boot like there was with Cam Gill. There's no braces. There's nothing like that.
I was going to say Hainsey is the most active, inactive player that I've seen in the history.
He really is.
Training camp.
And fans
which is great.
That.
Which is absolutely great. I guess it helps when you're a center. Like if you're a tackle, you can't really do as much in those. But
he's like pass setting by himself and going through his steps and asking questions and right there in the huddle. He's jumping in the huddles and
he's making the most of. They always talk about when you're out, you can still take mental reps. Mm-hmm. He is making the most of these
during the game. Do you remember everybody that tweet that went out and everybody was talking about Brady doesn't rest, he's taking the snaps. I don't know who asked for those center quarterback exchanges. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it was Hainsey though. After Brady came out of that game in the fourth quarter of that preseason game. And he's going through, he was talking, it wasn't just the snaps, but Brady was going through his footwork, but Hainsey was going through his footwork. And then he was asking Brady about protections. He was like pointing out in front of him, like he was asking about setting things if there were certain looks. And so just him getting mental reps and learning from Brady and everybody who's talked about him says the dude just loves football. Like he's all about football. And so, yeah, if that's true, I just think the future could be bright for him because he's got the athleticism, and for center, he's got the size. If he can get snaps down and if he can get, stronger, I think those are going to be really big things. But mentally and athletically, I think he's going to be fine, which is a big plus at center. So we'll see what ends up happening there with him. But I do think the whole picture on the O-line, maybe Brad Seaton is drawing even or passing Nick Leverett right now. And then there's that constant that is Earl Watford. Like,
yeah, I mean, Bruce Arians loves him.
Yeah.
He was very quick. He was very quick after the game on Saturday where he was asked about, I think, Leverett. And then he was like, yeah, he didn't make too many mistakes, but Earl Watford, let me tell you, he came in only a couple days of practices and played 50, 60 snaps. So, and I think earlier in training camp too, Arians was asked about a lineman, and he was like, yeah, this guy reminds me of Earl Watford. So Bruce Arians always has Earl Watford on the mind. And
right.
If you're a fan of if you're a fan of the head coach, or if the head coach is a fan of you have a decent shot to at least make the practice squad or something like that.
Yeah. My Bucs briefing tomorrow will have a lot of info on some of this stuff, Pat, just to talk about like the way that players played in the game. Because we talked about in the post-game podcast, but we really haven't talked about the broken down the game much with y'all. So I'll have a lot of that content in that Bucs briefing column. I was really impressed. I know the Bucs, he's at only 154 total yards of offense in first preseason game. Time to be concerned. The worst of it was after the starters were out, and not the starters, but the second stringers.
The third quarter was very, very ugly.
Yeah,
for
hard to have a lot of offense when you throw 2 picks in your own territory. Hard to have a lot of offense. You get the pick 6, and then you get the 2-point conversion, then they get the ball back, and so you weren't necessarily on the field a ton either. Tons of drops in the late in the game. Trask had a lot of those. Don't think Trask was great, but he was fine. Griffin was bad. That's a big part of it. But I'm not worried about those guys. Like, there's no, you say time to be concerned. First team offense, if AB catches that pass, which he does 99 times of 100, I think they're rolling. I don't think Cap and Wirfs blow that protection very often. Not saying they showed well. They didn't. But to me, there's nothing there concerning long term. Like, I don't have questions about anything based on what I saw in those 6 plays. Like, it's just other than the run scheme like that. But I digress. The second team O-line played well, Matt. That they played. They wore down later in the game, but they played well on Blaine Gabbert's. What do you have? 2 drives, first 2 drives, or maybe only had 2 drives. He had protection. 5v5. They just stood up well, helped each other, communicated well. We're on the same level.
The run game wasn't great overall, but I felt that series, obviously it led to a score.
Yeah.
While the run game wasn't great overall, that was series, it had their best. I mean, obviously, Keyshawn Vaughn's 2-yard touchdown run, he scored because they got a huge push from the offensive line after the initial hit. Mm-hmm. So, I agree with you there. I agree with you there. I thought
that was really encouraging to me. And honestly, I hate to say it, Sedarius Hutchinson played great, and obviously tearing his ACL, and hopefully he gets better. But I do think the Bucs are very interested in him long term still. It wasn't always great in practice. He has things to clean up. But NFL pro-ready body, pro-ready mentality and toughness, and pro-ready physical strength. Like, he could put grown dudes like vets on their butt. Like, that's how strong he was. And there's a lot to work with there. There's some things that need to be cleaned up, but he's an interesting player for the future, and he really played pretty well in the game. So I think that when the live bullets flew, he did better than he would in one-on-ones and things like that in practice. Leverett had his struggles. Seaton lost a rep or 2. Stinney was great in pass pro. I think he's always going to be a little bit of a liability in the run game, just not the biggest dude in a scheme like this. That probably hurts him. Molson really held his water too, man. Like, he's honestly kind of turning it around, and he's taking advantage of the opportunity with a bunch of centers out and snapping. I jinxed him today, didn't I, Matt?
He snapped better in the preseason, in one preseason game, than he has in training camp. And yes, you did jinx him today. For those again watching and listening, we were on the sideline watching, and they were in, and John said something along the lines of, yeah, Molson's looked good with snapping them over the past couple of days. And I think within 5 minutes, he just had a terrible snap that, I don't think it hit the ground before he even had a chance to look back and or anything like that. So that was rough. But I mean, hey, saving is best for the game, I guess. Can't get too mad about that.
Right. I mean, so yes, and long story short, I'm not worried about it, Pat Riley. I don't think that it's a big deal about the total yards on offense. But I will say this: it goes back to the drops. This isn't the case if they catch the football. Like they had well over 200 yards of offense if they catch the football. AB's dropped. Travis Johnson not being able to get both feet down. Josh Pearson dropped a long ball. Tyler Johnson's wide open for a long ball, by the way, and Trask missed him. That would have been a touchdown, a deep touchdown. Remember, Trask missed him by several yards.
Yep.
That stuff is the stuff you gotta make those plays count, especially within the course of a game. You may miss one bad thing may happen. You cannot let that stuff build up. Too often last year when they struggled, there were a lot of missed opportunities like that, and that's what you don't want to see happen, especially when you're a team that lives a lot on the long ball. Got to hit them when they're open, got to catch them when you get them on your hands. They didn't do that the other night, so the yardage, that's what it's going to look like, because if you don't catch those, now you're in 3rd and 10. Now you're in those kind of situations, and it's harder to get that yardage. So it's those hidden things, but all controllable for the Bucs. All controllable for the Bucs. Not something that's a deficiency of their roster, something that they just have to be able to focus and can continue to improve at consistency-wise. So, yeah, I think that's really – I mean, that to me, those were the big observations for today. The Titans practices we'll talk about in a second, but I want to throw this offer out there to people. The Underdog Fantasy response has been outstanding in recent weeks. I have been so excited to see people jumping in on these leagues, signing up, using that promo code PEWTER, PEWTER, to make sure they get signed up so that they can get that $25 in credit that they're doing. We are doing a big money fantasy league. The buy-in looks like it's going to be between $20, $25. We'll see what people say. We've got, I think, 8 spots maybe filled at this point in time. If you want to be in the big money, the $20, $25 buy-in Underdog Fantasy League, we're trying to get this thing to 12. It's a best ball league. You draft, and that's it. You draft your team. It's quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. No kicker, no defense. You draft your team, your roster set. It pulls the top scores from your roster every single week. That's what Underdog Fantasy will do. You don't have to set your lineup. You don't have to do anything on the waiver wires. Nothing like that. You just draft. It takes care of the rest throughout the year. It'll pull your top scores every week. And at the end of the year, we see who wins the big money. But I think we're doing like a $20, $25 buy-in. If you're interested in this Underdog Fantasy League with myself and some other Peter reporters, including Scott. Scott is in on this league. Scott Reynolds is in on this league. If you want to take money from Scott, don't we all? Make sure you email me, Jon, Jon, at pewterreport.com as soon as you can. There are spots available, but they are limited. I think it's like 4 or 5 spots at most, maybe. Could be less than that at this point. I know I have a couple emails I have to check from today that I haven't looked at yet. But if you're interested in that, Jon at pewterreport.com. If you would like to be in a $3 or $5 league, something a little more low key, let me know. We've got a couple people that were spillover from our 3rd filled league, and we've got some couple people that are waiting for another league to open up. I'm going to open another one up as long as I can get some more response on it. So Jon at pewterreport.com. Let me know, and I will get everybody signed up, and we'll get in there for the $3 and $5 leagues as well. Just let me know what league you'd like to be a part of. We'll get you in there. Remember, you get $25 in credit with this thing. And the other thing is, Underdog's got these unbelievable, like, big bowls going on. Like, they had the puppy going on. Now they've got, what is it, the big dog or something like that. They've got to buy it. You put in money, and you get a chance to win like $1 million, things like that they got going on their site right now. It's really fun stuff. And again, they give you $25 in credit to play. So you're starting from that position already. So yeah, get in there and spend some money and win some money with Underdog. They've got some, and the prop bets too. You love the prop bets. We'll be talking about those.
Prop bets.
We'll be talking about those every week on the show, leading up to games, and that'll be a huge part of our coverage. They've got some really fun prop bets, and so if you're in it, like that kind of thing, kind of like we were just doing with Gio right there, it's going to be a lot of fun to follow along with Underdog. So make sure you start your account there, get that $25 in credit, use that promo code Pewter, and let me know what fantasy leagues you want to be a part of. Jon at pewterreport.com. All right, Matt, what do we got coming up this week? We got the Titans coming into town, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be live tweeting a lot of things from practice, but we're also going to be holding a lot of nuggets for the show and holding a lot of content for the practice reports too. So make sure you keep reading those. Not everything's going to be on Twitter. We'll put some stuff out there, but especially for these practices, there's going to be a lot to take in, and we are probably going to be spread out watching different things. and all of us tweeting at the same time from the account could get a little overwhelming. So there will be a lot more information, I would say, that you won't get on Twitter at pewterreport.com and on the Pewter Report podcast for these two practices. So just be aware of that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, man. There's going to be a lot to break down. And I think that the Bucs, staying healthy is going to be the key thing. We know the starters aren't playing on Saturday. So these two practices are going to be kind of like us evaluating the preseason game. We will do the post-game podcast on Saturday, but Wednesday and Thursday podcast will kind of be like us kind of evaluating them from almost like a preseason standpoint.
Right. And just think about it. The first preseason game, as much as we love watching the backups and everything like that, people want to know what went down with the starters, and they played one series. We're going to get multiple reps from the starters against the Titans starters for 2 days of practice. So you're essentially getting almost one full preseason game with the starters in obviously a very condensed microcosm type of way. But you're going to get way more in these two practices than what you'll see from anyone really in the preseason. I think it's going to be so much fun to watch. I know I was at the joint practice a couple years ago when the Dolphins came to Tampa, and two very different teams at the time. We're talking about two teams right now. The Bucs are defending Super Bowl champs. Titans are a playoff team, a very good team with an awesome run game, and obviously know how great the Bucs run defense is. So that's one element of 1,000 different storylines going on. I'm pumped, man. I think this is really going to be great.
Yeah, me too. I think it's going to be a lot of great stuff to cover, and a lot of it will determine who stays on this roster for the Bucs and who gets cut. So, speaking of cutting, Matt Matera, wanted to let our people know about our friends over at Manscaped. Listen. Our friends at Manscaped, the global leaders in below-the-waist grooming, want you to shave your pubes with the Tom Brady of ball trimmers. The brand new Lawnmower 4.0, only the GOAT technology for the greatest balls of all time. When you're going toward the end zone, make sure you choose the right tools for the job and choose Manscaped. 2 million men worldwide trust them, so join the movement with our exclusive offer by using that promo code PEWTER, PEWTER, for 20% off and free shipping. We laugh when we do these, but honestly, the Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped is such a game changer, folks. I mean, you've got the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, which is waterproof. There's a travel lock on it. There's an unbelievable light on it. The comfort level is terrific. You're not going to get nicked up or anything like that. It's just a great piece of technology. The Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer is another game changer. You've heard Scott talk about that on the podcast before. Big game changer for him. Crop Preserver ball deodorant, the Crop Reviver toner, and then the Performance Boxer Briefs in the Shed travel bag are incredible. I mean, the Performance Boxer Briefs are like the most comfortable thing in the world. They really are. They're unbelievable. This is just a great gift. It's a great thing to ask for. It's a great thing to give somebody else. There's also, you get 20% off and you get free shipping with that promo code PEWTER right now. So really hard to beat it. It's a terrific offer from Manscaped. They've got great deals going on all the time over their site. So go to manscaped.com, check out the Performance Package 4.0 there and use that promo code PEWTER, PEWTER. Make sure you get 20% off, get free shipping, get it for somebody else, ask for it as a gift, tell people that about this promo code so they can get it for you, save a little bit of money, and take care of yourself, man. Male grooming. It's one of the more under discussed but important things in our society today. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. All right, here we go. So we are tomorrow. We're back 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll have a lot of observations and insight from their first joint practice to the Titans. That practice will start at 10 a.m. We don't know how long.
A little bit later.
A little bit later. Don't hate that. Wow. And then 10 a.m. as well on Thursday. And we'll have another podcast on Thursday, 4 p.m., wrapping up those. So the next 2 days will be Titans, Bucs practice thought observations from those joint practices. So it's going to be a fun time. Until then, thanks so much to everybody for listening to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.